I deliberately use the word parabhakti because there is another type of devotion called aparabhakti. When people beseech the Lord to fulfill all their selfish desires, this is called aparabhakti. O Lord, I am your devotee, help me to pass my examination. O Lord, my daughter has attained marriageable age, help me to find a worthy suitor. Let the bridegroom be ideal, let me not spend much on the wedding. This type of showy devotion that simply asks for mundane objects is no devotion at all, because it demands everything except Paramapurusha. Such devotees never say, O Lord, be mine. I want you and only you. They always say, I want this, I want that. In fact, this is no devotion at all. When one asks only for Paramapurusha, this is the true devotion, Parabhakti. So the position of devotion is above action and knowledge. Action comes next and knowledge comes last. Take for example the case of the series of seminars that were held in 1970. A great deal of knowledge was disseminated through these seminars. And as a result of this spread of knowledge, then some vanity developed. Usually vanity grows when a person feels to have learned much. The next year was the year of utilization or karma, action. If there is action, there cannot be lethargy, and automatically devotion will come. So if there is knowledge followed by action, that knowledge will be free from its defects of lethargy and vanity. In practical life, knowledge is important, but at the same time, one must guard against the natural defects that may originate from knowledge. This is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Trinadapi suni shena taroriva sahishnuna amaninam manya diyam kirtaniya sarahari. One should be as humble as the grass and as tolerant as the trees. One should give respect to those whom no one respects, and always do kirtan to the Lord. Vanity harms the mind in three ways. Abhimana or inflated ego, Gaurava or self-aggrandizement, and Pratishta or prestige. The word Abhimana is not used in a derogatory sense in Bengal. When someone is hurt mentally, we call it Abhimana, but the Sanskrit word Abhimana is not used in the same sense. Mana means honor, and Abhimana means honor in a pervasive sense. When a person expects greater honor from another person, but does not receive it, then his or her reaction is called Abhimana. Suppose someone goes to a place, and the people there do not give proper respect to him. Such a person will feel slighted, and he will have a severe psychic reaction. This is called Abhimana. I told you the story of one of our acharyas who was a senior officer in the agricultural department in Bihar. Once, when his higher officer came, the acharya became rather nervous. He did everything for his officer, but he forgot to do Namaskar to him. The officer said, "What sort of gentleman are you? I am your higher authority, and you did not do Namaskar to me?" Obviously, the officer's pride was wounded, and on some false pretext he issued a charge sheet against the acharya. But do you know what was the outcome? Before our acharya could even reply to the charge sheet, the officer was dismissed from his job, because the anti-corruption squad caught him red-handed accepting a large amount of money as a bribe. This is an example of Abhimana. Usually the consequences of Abhimana are always bad. The second is Gaurava, self-aggrandizement or boasting, projecting oneself as a great personality. Suppose in one's garden there is a big rose. Obviously the owner of the garden will boast to other people about the size of the rose. Perhaps the flower was as big as a fig, but the owner will describe it as huge. The third is Pratishta, self-glorification or hankering after prestige. Human beings are made of flesh and bones. If their heart or lungs stop functioning, then they will have no other option but to climb onto the funeral pyre. When this is the situation of human beings, Where is the scope for self-glorification? Thus the spiritual aspirants say, Abhimanam surapamanam gauravam rauravam ruvam pratishta shukari vishta trayam tyaktva harim bhajat. Abhimana is like drinking wine. Gauravam leads one into the deepest hell, and pratishta is like the excrement of a pig. Give up all these three, and only sing the glories of the Lord. What is this abhimana? It is as bad as drinking wine. Now you may say, is drinking wine so bad that we should condemn it? Smoking cigarettes and chewing betel are not so much condemned in society as wine is. The reason is that the most precious treasure of human beings is their intelligence, their wisdom, their discriminating judgment, and their conscience. But after drinking alcohol, all these faculties are temporarily paralyzed. So the food and drink that spoils the greatest treasure, the human mind, the thinking power, is undoubtedly condemnable. Thus it is universally agreed that drinking is bad. And this abhimana, or false sense of vanity, is as condemnable as drinking wine. Gauravam, Rauravam, Dhruvam. Gaurava means to project oneself to be greater than one actually is. In fact, is there anything of which human beings can be legitimately proud? Within this small human cranium there is a small brain composed of some nerve cells. Is this really something great of which human beings can feel proud? And what is the result of this self-glorification? Raurava means the seventh hell. You know that according to the comparative crudity or subtlety of existence there are 7 stages. Burlokya, physical world. Bhuvarlokya, world of becoming. Svarlokya, Maharlokya, Yanalokya, Tapalokya, and Satyalokya. Had these been still cruder forms, in that case they would be Tala, Atala, Talatala, Patala, Atipatala, and Rasatala. So the 7th hell is Rasatala, the very crudest of all stages of existence. Obviously in that state, human beings are no longer human beings. Their minds, their intellects are reduced to extreme crudity, a stage of no return. Similarly, when people start becoming degraded, a stage comes when they can no longer elevate themselves. Rasatala is such a state. Pratishta, Shukari, Vishta, human beings. Come onto this earth, only for a short while. After this stipulated period, they will depart. All entities in this world merely come and go. Nothing is fixed, everything is moving. And thus this universe is called Jagat. Root verb gam plus quip equals Jagat. Jagat means that which has the characteristic of ceaselessly moving on. Another synonym for the word world is samsara. Sam plus gan, that which constantly changes its place. When nothing ever ceases to move, then can you remain permanently in this world. Even the effort to establish oneself permanently in this world is unnatural, because this pratishta is as abominable as the stool of a sow. Hence one should give up all these three, abhimana or inflated ego, gaurava or self-aggrandizement, and pratishta or desire for prestige, and worship the Lord. Trayam tyaktva harim bhajet. Here Hari means Paramapurusha. You know Hari is a favorite name of Paramapurusha, Harati papan ityarte hari, one who steals. The sins of his devotees is Hari. Is it not absurd to call Hari a thief? Hence the fact is that only the devotees can come in close contact with Parampurusha, and not a philosopher Jnani. Because the devotee's main goal of life is to serve Paramapurusha. Now to serve Paramapurusha, the devotees cannot remain away from him. A philosopher or a person of action always maintains some distance from him. They do not come closest to him. They cherish a certain degree of awe in their minds for Paramapurusha. My Lord is the Supreme. How great he is! How then can I go near him? Let me rather remain a bit away from him. In this connection, let me recount an old story from Mahabharata. You know that when Draupadi was disrobed by Dushasana, she was praying to Narayan, "O Narayana, save me, save me." But although Draupadi was in great trouble, still she was clutching her dress at her waist with one hand, and with the other hand upraised she was beseeching the Lord to save her. But the Lord did not at once come to her rescue. Then Lakshmi said to Narayan, "Your devotee is entering you so piteously." Entering? Why do you refuse to help her? The Lord answered, "No, her self-surrender is not yet complete. You remember when Draupadi found that there was no way to save her prestige? She threw both her hands up in the air in utter helplessness, without even trying to hold her clothes, calling pitifully, 'O Lord, now you must save me.' And only then did the Lord immediately come to her rescue. For whereas previously she had personally tried to save herself from such a fate, now her self-surrender was complete. Similarly, all devotees must try to attain such total self-surrender as Draupadi did. When someone comes in the shelter of Paramapurusha, then he elevates them from all psychic distortions. You should know that there are certain social groups who, at their place of worship, confess to the Lord, "I am a sinner, I'm a sinner." This is a defective approach, an unpsychological approach. Paramapurusha knows more than you whether you are a sinner or not. So what is the necessity of telling him? What news can you report to a person who already knows all the intimate detail of your life? Is it not ludicrous to retell the stories of your grandfather's house to your mother? For certainly she knows them better than you. Then what should be the proper approach to Paramapurusha? Sudosi budosi niranyosi, samsara maya parivariyitosi, samsara vapnam tyaya mohanidram, malala solapamuvasha putram. You are pure, you are enlightened, you are completely unblemished, you are free from the snares of this illusory world. Give up this dream of worldly life. Thus spoke Malalasa to her son. You should think within that you are ever pure and enlightened. You are a child of Paramapurusha. You should think that you are like a newborn baby who remains untouched or unaffected by the dirt and dross of sin. Why should you approach Paramapurusha as a sinner? The relationship between the Lord and human beings is one of close family ties. Does a small child in the family ever go to its parents saying, "I'm a sinner, I'm weak, please forgive me, my parents"? Certainly, a child will never say this. Even a truly wicked person come to his mother and says, "Dear mommy, I'm very hungry, please give me food." He will never speak of sin, his sins. However, when Paramapurusha knows that the sense of sin harms human beings and creates obstacles in the path of their spiritual progress, he steals the sins of his devotees. Is it stealing? If one takes an object of another person without proper permission, this is called stealing. And what is robbery? When someone takes away someone's property forcibly but with prior intimation, this is termed as robbery. Here what Hari is doing is not robbery but stealing, Because if he says to his devotees, "O my children, give me all your accumulated sins," certainly no one would agree to do so. Rather they would say, "How can we give our sins to you? We can provide you with delectable food, we can take care of you, we can give you all sorts of gifts, but how can we give you our sins?" Thus, when Paramapurusha sees that the devotees are unwilling to part with their sins, he forcibly steals them away. So, towards the entity who is so close to you, is it proper for you to entertain such false feelings of Abhimana, Gaurava, and Pratishta? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to help human beings overcome this sense of vanity and lethargy, advised them to a psychological approach. Trinadapi Sunishena, be as humble as the grass. When people feel that others are not giving them proper regard, and as a result they feel psychically wounded, they should accept this golden principle to counteract this false sense of self-aggrandizement. One should consider oneself to be even humbler than the grass. But remember that this refers to individual and not collective behavior. In collective life, pride should not be allowed to raise its head. It should not be condoned. In collective life, one has no right to forgive anyone. In individual life, you can extend maximum forgiveness. Rather, the more forgiveness the better. Forgiveness is something personal. It is not a collective matter. Suppose you are an inhabitant of India. If someone harms the collective life of India, you must not forgive them. Likewise, as you belong to the entire human race, you must not forgive anyone who harms humanity. But in individual life, however much one might harm you, you may forgive that person to the greatest extent possible. Thus it is said that one should be as humble as the grass, but remember that grass, although humble, is not insignificant. The universal life is manifested in grass. Without grass it would have been impossible for human beings to survive. You should further remember that in practical life, no spiritual aspirant would like to be a banyan tree or a palm tree. A banyan tree, as it grows, extends its branches in all directions. Many people enjoy the wide shade of such a huge tree, but its greatest defect is that it does not give any opportunity to other plants to grow under its shade. Likewise, one should not aspire to become like a palm tree, which raises its head higher and higher but does not provide shade to anyone. So you should not emulate the examples of either the banyan tree or the palm tree. You should rather be as humble as the grass. It remains underfoot, but how luxuriantly it grows from there. Mother Earth remains under the feet of all beings, but does this do insult to her in any respect? Sometimes a child stands on the lap of its mother. Does this harm or insult the mother? Not at all. On the contrary, the mother is elevated thereby. Hence it is said, Trinadapi Sunishena Tauriva, Sahishnuna, one should be humbler than the grass, and more tolerant than the trees. Likewise, when one's sense of aggrandizement is wounded, one becomes intolerant. Suppose someone claims that huge roses have grown in his garden, but in reality the flowers are not that big. If someone argues, no, the roses are not at all that large, you are telling us lies. The roses in your garden are actually quite small. The owner of the garden will fly into rage. Thus, when someone's inflated ego is pinched, he or she becomes extremely angry. Thus, human beings will have to practice tolerance, but this spirit of tolerance must be developed only in individual life. In collective life, it must not be expressed. If a country illegally grabs even 1 inch of your land, you must take 1 mile of the aggressor's land. No spirit of tolerance in this regard is permissible. If you show your tolerance, then they will take 1 inch today and 1 mile tomorrow. However, you can practice toleration as much as possible in individual life. That would be considered a sign of greatness. Amaninam manadeyam, you expect that people should respect and honor you, but you never think that you should also respect and honor others. Samgrame vae parityam, this principle has already been explained. You long for name and fame, and you are burning with impatience, because you're not receiving the honor you expect. So you must use the reverse strategy. Give respect to those whom no one gives respect, and your mind will become balanced and at peace. When beggars are stranded by the wayside, do you ever care to salute them? Why not? Are they not dignified human beings? Are they not also expressions of the same one supreme consciousness? But when well-dressed, high-placed ministers and leaders stand before you, you lie prostrate before them. Why this discrimination? All are manifestations of one and the same God, yet then one person you greet warmly and another you utterly neglect. Why this differential treatment? It means that there is a hidden sense of flattery in your mind, and you are surreptitiously trying to gain honor from the elite. Rather, you must give respect to those who do not receive respect from anyone. In this way, your minds will become balanced and you will progress. As ideal human beings, you should not wait to give Namaskar after another has greeted you. You should rather take the first opportunity to greet others. When someone greets you, it is merely common courtesy for you to salute back. You do not become an ideal human being thereby. Rather, one who seizes the first opportunity to salute others is the ideal. So you should always make an effort to do Namaskar to others first. You should not care whether the person whom you greet will greet you in return or not. When people come to me during personal contact, I greet them first, whether they salute me or not. By giving honor to others, you will not be belittled, you will rather enhance your prestige. Namanti falinaha vrikshaha. When trees are laden with fruits, they do not raise their heads high. Rather, they bend down low. This is a sign of greatness. Kirtaniyaha sada hari. One should always sing the glory of the Lord. It is the frailty of human beings that when a few of them group together, they indulge in criticizing or mudslinging others. These lead to psychic degradation. In fact, people should perform such actions which will lead to psychic elevation, actions which give the mind no scope for degeneration. The easiest way to do this is to sing the glories of the Supreme Entity, whose very thought automatically elevates the mind. Chanting the name of Paramapurusha aloud is called Kirtana, for the vibration created in the atmosphere by Kirtana will influence others also. But if one's mental ideation is conveyed only to Paramapurusha without affecting other human beings, this is called bhajana. So bhajana is purely personal. It has no collective aspect. Kirtana is more beneficial than bhajana, and hence it is said Kirtaniyaha sada hari. Whenever you find time, do Kirtana loudly, and you will never become degenerated, because by chanting the Lord's holy name, the mind remains elevated. Mudslinging and criticizing is thereby stopped forever, and hence Kirtana averts the degradation of the human mind. You should always remember that in every sphere of life, social, political, economic, psychic, and spiritual, you should always follow the principle of taking the opposite stance. There is no exception to this rule. Victory will surely be yours. 29th November 1970, DMC in Calcutta.